Welcome to day 186 of the 300 Movie Challenge. Today we watched the highest grossing film of November 2009, which was 2012.
So I've seen this before, at least
Many a time.
at least twice, maybe three times. I don't know if I saw it in theaters though. Anyway, I don't think so. But so I have a soft spot for disaster movies. Maybe it's just because I like seeing things get destroyed. I don't know.
Okay.
But but you two have never seen this before, and you didn't really know what happens.
No, not really.
We knew that things got destroyed,
Well, duh.
Yeah.
but otherwise not really. Like the only other things that I knew is that it had something to do with like solar flares and like the magnetic poles, but that's all I knew.
I think the only other thing I knew is like the part with the big ships.
Mm.
And that's it.
Yeah, so
They were there.
I took notes on
Yeah,
the
we watched you take
scientific
notes.
inaccuracies in this movie.
And then I have a bit of beef with one certain thing too.
So let me share these notes with you. Where are they? There they are. Okay. First of all, the movie starts.
Oh wait,
showing-
it should be noted before Valen reads this that this is in chronological order of
Yeah.
the movie.
Yes.
This is an order.
So I'm not going to read my notes verbatim because it won't make too much sense, but I'll try to add them. So first of all, the movie starts showing like the planets being like aligned. Okay, woo. Even though that whole beginning is supposed to be in 2009, so even assuming the planet's alignment would do anything, why is it there in 2009 when nothing happens until 2012? So okay, whatever. But they show like the planets like visible from each other. Like, you see Saturn, you can clearly see Jupiter behind it, and that's impossible. They're way too far apart for that to happen. So, okay, there's that.
Yeah.
Then, the whole premise of this movie, why this all happens, is that the sun gets more active, which, okay, fine, I could believe that. The sun does go through, I think, 11-year cycles, so it's not like, oh my god, the sun's getting more active. It's like, well, it kind of always is, but whatever.
Yeah.
I'll accept that the sun is suddenly more active for some reason. I'll accept that. So it would have more flares. Okay. Now, flares can be very dangerous, the main reason being they can strip away the ozone layer and they can completely ruin any sort of electronic equipment. Okay?
Yeah.
The movie never addresses that at all.
Nope.
It
In
says...
fact, all the electronic equipment, even at the very end, still stays very much intact.
Yeah, so... What they say happens is that the flares emit lots of neutrinos. Now that's true. Solar flares do emit neutrinos. And they say that the neutrinos, they said they don't interact with a lot of particles, they pass through things and they end up some of them end up inside the Earth, which that's true, some of them do end up inside the Earth. Then they say that the particles quote unquote mutate. They use the fucking word mutate
As if it's like mutation from biology.
into a new particle that is increasing the temperature of the Earth's core.
That does not happen.
That's fucking
there's
impossible. And
there's a physics teacher and a former chemistry major here to tell you that.
no, here's the thing. If this is the biggest if ever, and this is not gonna happen, but if that happened, if somehow a particle quote unquote mutated into something new with new properties, it would fuck up so much shit.
Yeah.
Because like, the whole thing about
Outside of the Earth, too.
the thing about neutrinos is that they're everywhere, but they're super weakly interacting, right? So if neutrinos can suddenly interact and make things hotter, you fucked up the universe, okay? You didn't fuck up
death.
Earth. Well, no, it's the opposite of heat death.
Oh, right.
Like,
no,
you would literally, if I'm thinking this right, you would fucking make the sun explode, okay? There'd be different problems. So,
No, that is inescapable.
even if that was what could happen, but it's not. Like, come on. The only possible thing that this is anywhere near any of this is that the fundamental forces, so the gravitons, the photons, the gluons, all those kind of things, those were combined into other particles way back in the very beginning of the universe. Okay? Mm-hmm. So you could say, and this is a legitimate thing that people say, is that you could have, like, something where a photon actually does decay and split into two different things with their own properties. That is something that could possibly happen, which, by the way, would fuck literally everything over immediately, and the universe would, like, break. So, good luck with your existential crisis on that. But those are force particles. Those are bosons. Neutrinos are not bosons. So they're, I forgot the name of it. Is it leptons? I don't know. They're in the same family with the electrons and muons and stuff. Anyway, so an electron is an electron. It doesn't do anything else, okay? We've never seen an electron mutate into something else, okay? That doesn't fucking happen. And there are different types of neutrinos, but they don't do this shit. So it's literally, like, it pisses me off because, like, they actually kinda got things right until the fact they said, oh, it's neutrinos. Like, that fucks everything up. When the other stuff is actually not that wrong. So, okay. That's that part. So that is the biggest problem, honestly, with all of this. But then there's a bunch of other things. So, in the very...
there's the guy who was talking just a teensy bit loud during a very talkative, loud party. And as soon as he talks a teensy bit loud, everyone just stops talking.
Yes, that's one thing that small happens early on. And then, okay, the fucking Mayan calendar.
Oh, boy.
So the Mayan calendar did end... I believe this is true. This actually might not be true, but I believe it does end the winter solstice 2012. Okay, that was true.
I think it did. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what else?
It restarted, didn't it?
Our calendar ends too on December 31st. It's literally the same fucking thing. It's not that it meant the end of the world. It meant, okay, that's the end of the calendar. That's the end of the quote-unquote, I guess, I don't know, super year, whatever they classified that set of time. Now we move on to the next one. It's literally the same fucking thing! Like, good lord, why is everyone like, oh my god, the Mayans! Like, you fucking idiots. Okay, anyway. Moving on. Earthquakes. I live in California. I've been through some earthquakes. Nothing terrible, okay, but, you know, some. Earthquake faults don't look like they do in this movie. And they try to hand-wave it by saying they're not normal plate tectonic earthquakes, they're, I don't know, something else apparently. So, but...
Apparently the crust, like, moving which way in
which
that...
Which is just fucking plate tectonic, so okay, fine, whatever. But they don't, like, you don't see the sidewalk fucking split, like, many inches and have that be, like, a mild earthquake. That's a serious earthquake if that happens. And they kept being like, oh, there's all these tiny mini earthquakes that are happening that are going to relieve the stress of the fault. And it's like, there's an earthquake that fucking rips like a grocery store in half. Like, that's not small at all.
That's not a small earthquake.
Yeah.
That's huge. So, you know, okay, calling that mini is ridiculous. Also, there was a thing about, when the cruise ship was about to leave from San Francisco, there's an earthquake that happens there. And again, the fact how much it affects the cruise ship would mean that would have been a pretty powerful earthquake as well.
Because it would have displaced the water and everything,
yeah,
too.
So there was that, and like there would have been, they focused on the cruise ship, and I'm like, if this earthquake actually happened here, like there would be a lot more damage, like in the nearby buildings and whatever. But okay. Yeah. And also, the main fault line actually is not at San Francisco. It's east. It's more east of that. So okay, whatever. I did say the most accurate thing in this movie is that the government keeps not listening to the scientists. So that's accurate. At least they got that right. But speaking of that, though, the fact that this is all like some big-ass cover-up, right? And they say 46 nations are involved in this cover-up. There's no fucking way that would be kept secret. 46 nations?
Especially with other nations, too. Like... There's more than 46 nations on this planet, guys.
Yeah, there's, at least in terms of the UN, I believe there's 193, 94,
so they left out more than, like, 3/4 of the UN.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, then the whole thing with the neutrinos, they somehow heat up the Earth's core. Somehow. Again, that makes literally no sense. And by the way, the Earth's core is actually slowly cooling. Okay? So... to the point where...
Oh yeah, eventually the plates won't move at all.
Yeah,
and
exactly. So the whole thing is that, like, oh, it's the core heats up, which therefore, like, it, I guess, weakens the crust and lets it move around more. Like, I guess you could argue that quote-unquote could happen because it technically did, like, 4 billion years ago. But again, it's been cooling ever since then. The crust has been getting thicker and thicker. So the fact that they somehow, the interior of the core got so hot that, like, because again, the thing is they discovered this in like 2009. So somehow in 3 years, they undo 4 billion years of the crust solidifying. Okay, cool. And then, oh yeah, I mentioned planetary alignment doesn't mean anything. Like, literally, it's just, would you know, I guess you could technically have, like, the only difference is maybe, like, the tide is, like, a foot higher. Like, literally, that's it. Like, there's nothing that would matter. It's so irrelevant. I can do the math, I can prove it to you. And then, oh yeah, the whole thing about, like, if all of this is gonna happen anyway, how the fuck, they were literally like, this is gonna happen December 21st, 2012. Literally, how would you know that to the day? Like, how?
You wouldn't.
That too, like, throughout the movie, they're like, all of this is happening, like, prior to our predictions and everything, but it's like, but you know what day it was gonna happen? So
yeah.
Wouldn't you have, like, prepared things?
Why didn't they leave before that day?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I understand.
Before that week, even, because they have to, like, get everything onto the ship and all the people and everything. It's not like, oh, okay, it's about a week before December 21st. All right, everyone get onto the airplane. Let's get on the flight.
Start packing now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, I don't remember what this, I don't remember what this thing was about. Oh, I'm echoing, hold on. Okay. I don't remember what this note was about. I just wrote, that's not how earthquakes work, you'd feel it before that. I don't even remember what that would be talking
Is it,
about.
like...
I don't remember
I don't
either.
remember. Anyway.
It's been a little
Was
bit.
it after they came back from Yellowstone and he went to the house to pick them up?
No, it was after that.
Was it?
Yeah, because then it talks about the stuff later. Okay, anyway. Oh, wait, no, it was before that. Yeah, it was before that. I don't remember when I wrote that. Anyway, okay. Oh, yeah, they mentioned that the magnetic field has weakened by 80%. Now, is it true that the magnetic field strength actually does first of all, move and also weaken? Yes, it does. 80% in, like, I think they say in, like, days is ridiculous. And, again, anyone with a compass would realize something's weird anyway, so that's okay.
Yeah.
And also probably fuck with some animals because they use magnetic fields to do
Oh,
stuff.
yeah, that's true.
And then, okay, there's this, like, crazy conspiracy Alex Jones hippie-looking dude who's in Yellowstone, who, of course, happens to be right about everything, right? But
Yep.
he is in Yellowstone, and somehow they get his broadcast in L.A., and he's not, like, some fancy dude with a satellite. He's literally a dude in a camper van, so that doesn't make any fucking sense. Oh, and then the whole thing about when they're escaping from LA in the plane, they have the plane, like, flying through debris, like, all the time, and that
Well,
would just...
twice, because they were in the little tiny plane first, and then they got onto the Russian jet.
Oh, yeah, with the Russian jet,
Oh, yeah.
in the volcanic ash. That would actually be worse, because volcanic ash is particularly terrible for that kind of stuff. So that plane would just die immediately. So, okay. Oh, for the whole thing about the whole LA scene, they literally show, like, the LA, like, lifting up and sinking into the ocean, like, that way. And based on, I guess, again, they argue it's technically not plate tectonics, but, like, based on the location of the plates and how they're subducting, if anything, the plates would be reversed in terms of how that would look. So, okay. Also, they mentioned that Yellowstone is the biggest supervolcano. It's not. Toba's bigger.
No.
So that's
After
something.
a bit of research and everything, the most destructive volcano, actually, in history is in Lake Toba in Indonesia.
Yeah, and that's the supervolcano that erupted a couple thousand, well, not couple, but several thousand years ago.
Yeah.
And it, they think that it reduced the global human population to like 10,000 people. So, yeah. Oh yeah, during that volcanic eruption, by the way, they literally show the whole fucking thing erupt at once, which, by the way, I don't even know if that's exactly how that would work. But anyway, so you're like, okay, that's a big explosion. And they show a shockwave. And
It was a weak ass
it's so
shockwave.
weak. Like, it
Yeah.
knocks the Alex Jones dude down, but he's, like, not even, like, really hurt. He still stands up afterwards.
He's
and
not
it's like,
dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that would have killed him.
Yeah, like, that should have been way stronger. Also, the pyroclastic flow of the ash is, like... And sometimes it's like, fast, and sometimes it's not. So, like, okay.
Yeah.
And then, let's see. Oh, yeah, and then the dude, like... He was in the camper, and then, like, the camper, like, falls down into a chasm, and yet somehow he gets, like, through it and climbs back up. So that
I
doesn't
don't know
make any
how he
sense.
did that.
And it's like you see other people fall into chasms and they never get out.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, this thing really bothers me. This happened multiple times in this movie, and this happened in many other movies as well, where they're like, oh, we just got some new data. Run the simulation. 2 seconds later, here's the simulation. Like, no. Bullshit. That shit, like, takes so long to do, and it usually takes
Not only that, but you
supercomputers to
need
do
like
it.
a lot of people to be able to run that simulation
Yeah,
too.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
Like
literally
put it
just...
together and do the program and everything. It's not like you can be like, oh, yes, this is exactly what we need.
It's kind of like how they portray hacking in
Yeah.
media too. It's not instantaneous.
Yeah, so that's stupid. Oh, and so they talk about how the crust, again, because the crust is moving, so it literally shifts, like, continents over, right? So, the amount of energy, again, even if you increase the temperature of the core so much that the crust destabilizes, which, again, I don't even understand how that would work, but even if you did that, that doesn't automatically make it move.
Right.
That means it just kind of, it gets weaker, and then sure, it might kind of break up in places, but then it would just sit there and would still be under, tidal forces, and it wouldn't just be like, all right, time to move 1,000 miles this way. Like, there's no reason to. There's still other shit in
Yeah.
the way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, and even if it did move, and maybe you could say, oh, the activity could increase. Okay, fine. It wouldn't be like 1,000 miles in like a day. That's insane.
No.
So that doesn't make any sense. The whole thing about them like driving a car out of an airplane to like get out of it, that's impossible. That wouldn't work. Oh yeah, they showed like them like airlifting animals as to the arcs, right?
Oh.
And they literally show like fucking giraffes and elephants like hanging from wires, like going across the Himalayas, and it's like, that's stupid. That would not work.
We'll get back to that point.
We'll
a
get
little
back to
bit.
that
Yeah.
soon.
There's a point where this woman like she whistles for the dog, and it's like the dog's way far away. There's so much other noise happening. There's no way the dog would have heard that.
No.
Oh, the timer in this movie.
Oh
So
my god.
it starts. You can see in the background it says about 12 and a half minutes left. And then we checked, and I said, check the time in the video. 4 minutes later in the video, there's almost 16 minutes left. 3 minutes after that, there's 4 minutes left. And then 2 minutes after that, there's 1 minute left. So, okay. Also, the whole thing about those literally, like, gigantic tsunamis, which, I mean, okay, fine. If you have the crust destabilizing and moving around, would that create giant tsunamis? Sure. Okay, fine. I'll even accept that. But they would not move that fast.
No.
Water is water. It doesn't move at, like, 5 million miles an hour. Like, come on.
Not only that, but India is much bigger than that.
Yeah,
That
no,
too,
they-
the Himalayas are very tall.
Yeah, like, I don't know how that he could even, like, even if the crust was so destabilized that, like, the water was getting all fucked up and stuff, I don't think it would get that high.
I mean, again, I'm even giving them that with the biggest benefit of the doubt. But literally, they're like, oh yeah, the water crosses, like, all of India in, like, 6 hours. And it's like, no.
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 That doesn't work.
India is a subcontinent. It's huge.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So there's that. Oh, when the tsunami does like hit the ship, it gets in because the door is not closed or whatever, and it's like, I'm pretty sure this is a special effect limitation, but they really do not have enough water in there. It should have been like completely flooded. At least like in the rooms where there is water, it should have been like all the way to the top. So
Yeah.
okay. And then the main question for all this is, why the fuck do you need to close that door to start the engine? Like, I get it in the sense of, like, should you have the door closed before you do things? Well, yeah. But literally, why is it a requirement?
You would still save people if you,
Yeah.
like, even if it was unsafe for the people, like, near the door, everyone inside would still survive.
Yeah, or even then, like, because, again, the example is, if you can move, you can then move the ship, like, up more to the surface so that the door could actually be, like, out of the water.
Yeah.
Right.
So it wouldn't keep having water go into it, and then you could have, you know, some draining. I guess they must have some sort of drainage system, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that whole plot thing makes no fucking sense. So, okay, those are my scientific inaccuracies. We haven't even gotten to the plot conveniences yet.
Oh man.
No.
So, Tara, do you want to start with the big one?
Yeah. Okay, so, as Valen mentioned before, they airlifted animals to the Himalayan base and whatever. Of course, as it is already, that would be impossible in multiple scenarios on multiple levels. So, in any case, I at first gave them credit for being like, oh, okay, they realized that they needed more than humans and everything on the ships and to save and everything. Cool, they got animals. I was quite content with that. Until I learned that the one continent that was spared from everything was Africa. And that they apparently had this notion that Africa was the one continent that was going to be spared. Which is really nice and fine and all. But the only animals that they showed saving were African animals.
There were giraffes, there were rhinos, there was a elephant, and we were like, oh, okay,
There was
that's
a gorilla at one point, yeah.
okay.
And
And
I
then-
was just like, you saved the animals that are already saved.
I mean, I could see the argument that they didn't know that that was going to happen and that they picked, like, you know, the iconic animals that everyone would know. So they just happened to be African. But yeah, it definitely comes off as like, wow, really? Okay.
Like, they could
Yeah.
have showed, like, I don't know, a tiger from Asia, or
a
like
panda. Or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't even save the bald eagle.
Oh, yeah.
especially since that one dude was, like, so freaking over-the-top patriotic, like,
Yeah.
asshole American. You would think there would be a bald eagle.
Yeah, and then just the whole movie is protagonist plot armor,
Yeah.
right? Like the whole thing. Okay, you know that like none of the main characters are gonna die.
Yeah.
That
The
said, you
main
also
characters being the
the family
the
basically.
scientist guy in the beginning.
Oh yeah, him and the family.
Yeah.
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 And the daughter, I guess, the president's daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, but at the same time, pretty much every other side character does die.
Yeah.
Almost. Not some of them don't. Again, I would argue the president's daughter is kind of a side character, and like the Russian kids are side characters. But
Yeah.
you know,
The dog survived too.
yeah. So
Yeah, the dog survived.
so the plot itself is dumb. Again, the scientific scenario is dumb. And the dialogue is just kind of whatever. It's not, I guess, not horrible, but it's not interesting. So it's, you know.
Yeah, it's not the greatest
Yeah.
thing.
So with all that said, though, the emotion is actually not bad.
Yeah. The acting is
Strangely.
pretty. The
Which-
acting itself is pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, in my mind, the movie that I was kind of comparing this to is War of the Worlds, where the emotion pretty much sucked.
Yeah.
Like, that was our main complaint with War of the Worlds. Like, the
Yeah.
effects were fine, the story was fine, and everything.
The characters were literally the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah, the characters were the worst. We hated seeing them on screen and everything. The emotions were horrible. In this movie, on the other hand,
It's kind of
We
the opposite.
yeah. Like, they actually got the emotions pretty well across.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't hate the characters either.
No. Well, some of
They
them.
reacted pretty decently realistically.
Yeah.
I would
Well,
say.
some of the kids were a bit awkward, but
The kids,
Yeah.
but that's child acting. for
yeah.
you.
And again, like, the thing I have is that since the plot structure itself is like, it's really awkwardly, I don't know if paced is the right word, but it's like there's a decent amount of like good emotional scenes. Like, for example, when the old white guy in the ship tries to call his son in Japan, right? When
Yeah.
with just the whole thing with the ship right after that, right?
Yeah.
The president, right? He's actually he's probably the best character in this.
Yeah.
The scene, I like this scene in particular, actually, where the scientist guy has the father dude's book, and he's saying like, this is some random dude's book, but it's now part of our legacy, just like because of chance, right?
Yeah.
And that kind
yeah.
of makes me think of like how it's kind of like, you know, in your life, just random small shit like ends up changing so much.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so I liked that part of it. So it's like there's good moments, but there's no cohesion between them.
Yeah.
Right?
Which
Yeah.
kind of makes it.
It's kind of sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because again,
If you take those scenes and like those few characters who are like pretty like you know stand out good, like the president, which is the president that we really need right now, then if you took all those elements and made a separate, like, I don't know, maybe like a political drama, I think it'd be pretty good.
yeah, see, I think another problem also is that there's a lot of characters.
Yeah,
Right.
they
Yeah.
are.
And they try to make you feel for all of them, and it's like that you can't quite do that.
No.
And I think that they should have basically split this movie in half.
Yeah.
You could either do the political angle of dealing with this kind of disaster, so that would be,
And
you know,
following the scientists.
following the scientists and the president and those people, or, and I think this would be more interesting, and this kind of reminds me of what I talked about for Cloverfield. If you followed that family and they weren't part of, like, you know, the master scheme and saving the world, right? Again, think of the
Oh,
whole
I
thing of,
see.
like, you know, random family somehow caught up in this thing that they don't understand and don't know how to deal with, right? And the emotions associated with that. And see, going further, I think this, like, destruction and stuff could work if they did not try to explain it scientifically. Because you can't. Right? But if they
Yeah.
literally had this as, like, what the fuck is happening? We have no idea what's going on. Like, I think that would have been much more interesting. Where...
So it's kind of like taking this family and putting them in War of the Worlds.
like that, or again,
In a sense.
or like Cloverfield kind of, maybe not necessarily like with the found footage, but again, that idea of like, there's this thing, we have no idea what the fuck is happening or what we're supposed to do, and we're just trying to not die, right? So it's like there's two different movies in here, which could actually be pretty good, but by smushing them all together, and like this is a long movie, and it feels pretty damn long, and the pacing is weird because sometimes it's like pretty fast, but then like, especially I feel the whole scene of like once they get to China and that like they're like dealing with the whole ships launching or whatever, that takes like way too long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially
Like at least 40 minutes or something.
yeah, and you feel like when you're getting to the ships, you're like, okay, there's gonna be like one last big thing, probably the water's gonna hit, but then they're gonna survive, and that's gonna be the end. But then they drag that out for like 40 minutes, and you're like, okay, good lord, like this, you think the movie's almost gonna be over, and then it's not. And then there has to be, again, they have to have the random dude, you know, save the day by you know, fixing the gear or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just like, So, yeah, ironically, I thought I would like this less than I did, even though I don't even like it that much. I have kind of a soft spot for it, even though, like, I know it's not that good, because I've seen it before. But again, seeing it now, I'm like, there is actually stuff in here that is legitimately good. So
Yeah, there's a lot of like dumb moments, but there are a lot of like pretty good solid moments too. So I couldn't say that I disliked it. I would say that I'm a pretty solid mixed
Yeah.
overall.
I think as someone who's just like, I don't know, I like the whole spectacle. Like, for example, the LA earthquake thing is like by perfect kind of over the top ridiculous disaster stuff. Like that's just it's so insane that I'm like I like this. I'm sorry, I do. Right? So I think I would actually put it a little bit higher than that, than mixed for me. But and again, I think if it was just the disaster stuff, but then everything else sucked, I would probably put it in mixed. But since there are other things that are legitimately good, I have to push it up a little bit more. But
I think that's fair, yeah.
yeah, so I guess if you like disaster movies, I mean, you probably have seen this already then if you have. But if you haven't, it's at least worth to see once, I would say.
Yeah.
But if you know this isn't for you, well then it's not for you. You're not gonna want to see it. So, yeah. We spent like 20 minutes talking about the bullshit science, and only like 10 talking about the movie.
I mean, the bullshit science is a pretty large.
It's a pretty big part about
Yeah,
the movie.
again, that's why I think they should have made this as like some shit is just happening and nobody knows why and they can't figure it out.
If they didn't try to explain it, then I think it would have worked. This is one of those moments where you don't have to explain the magic. There
Yeah.
are times where it is nice if you do, because it might like bring a little bit of clarity. But this is one of those moments where you don't need to do that.
Yeah, it'd be
Yep.
like, for example, if they tried to explain like exactly how the Cloverfield monster got there. It's like that would it would mess up the whole point of the movie, right? So it's well
Or if you
anything.
try to like explain Gandalf's magic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like actually, I'm thinking if they tried to explain Cloverfield, it would end up like '98 Godzilla. Right, because that's what they do in '98
Probably.
Godzilla. They try to overanalyze everything in that movie and like how are exactly how this thing works and feeding it fish and having it juke out military helicopter. You know what I mean? Shit like that. So it's like you don't need to do that. Okay, so yeah, yeah, I do think there was something else I was gonna say about it. Shit. And I know that a trope of disaster movies is destroying monuments. But wow, they go so far with this, and it's not just how they destroy it, but it's like, no, it's not just
Which
what they
ones
destroy.
they destroy?
No, it's not what they destroy; it's how they destroy it specifically. So, like for example, the Sistine Chapel is destroyed, and they show it being destroyed because a crack forms between, like the fingers of Adam and God, and it's like, okay. Come on, really? Like,
Oh yeah, one more thing about the religious. The son's name is Noah.
oh yeah,
He
Mhm.
helps the dad save the ark.
yeah.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that until I said it. I was like, oh my god, wow.
Yeah, I was like, wait, the kid's
I
name is
didn't realize
Noah.
that either until she mentioned it.
I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah. So there's that, and then yeah, the whole Sistine Chapel, like, okay, Christ the Redeemer falls over. The fucking White House is taken out by an aircraft carrier being carried by a tsunami. Like, okay.
Like how American is that?
I know.
So freaking
After
American.
surviving the Washington Monument falling on it.
Oh yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So it's just like, oh my god. And then I feel like there's something else that we saw. I don't know. I don't think so, actually. I actually did have an idea
Hmm?
that would actually be kind of interesting.
Oh yeah.
What if they made a sequel?
A sequel?
What?
No, but think about this. Like 100 years in the future,
Okay.
what did they do? What's Earth like? What new
Oh, I
civilizations are
see.
around?
Oh, you mean not a disaster movie, but more so what happened?
Yeah, because it's not quite post-apocalyptic again. Because the whole thing about like, Africa is still there, but like you have the whole issue of like, these new people coming in trying to live, and like they have the tech. It's not like they have no technology anymore or anything like that. And there could be actual interesting, I think, like socio-political drama stuff happening there, and it could set up this like kind of new world, which they could maybe do some things from that. Fuck it, name it 2112 or something. You know what I mean? I don't know, something. I think like they actually could maybe do something with that, but I don't think anyone would see it probably. So that's the main issue. But
I
I don't
don't
know. I'd
think
be
they
kind of
would-
interested in that.
Yeah, I don't think they would really know what to do just because like
Yeah,
we
it's-
wouldn't be familiar with any of the characters
Yeah, that's the
anymore.
problem. It would be an
Yeah.
interesting setup, but like I think a specific plot would be kind of hard to form. I do think again, but it would be interesting if like some of the stuff that they have, in this movie could be kind of like the legends of the new civilization, right? So the whole like again, the
Oh,
whole thing
yeah.
about like this random dude's random book that nobody bought being like one of the things that survived. You know what I mean?
Right,
Kind of
right.
going into that territory a little bit. So like that, I don't know. I think that stuff could be interesting, but again, forming a plot and characters from that would work would be hard. So
Yeah.
I just had that idea in my head near the end, and I was like, I wonder if that could work. But
That would make a good TV show or like documentary series.
Oh yeah, it would be like a mockumentary
yeah,
almost.
maybe.
Hmm.
I wonder if that exists. I don't know. I feel like that might be something that already exists somewhere, like some sort of like
I'm-
fake documentary on like some post-apocalyptic
I'm
civilization. I
sure
don't know.
there is. Just thinking about how many films there are and like film
Yeah.
students and things like
Yeah.
that.
Well, I don't know. Is there much else to say? We've been talking for quite a while.
No, really?
Okay.
Freaking African animals.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so I guess there you go. If you think of it this way, if you kind of want to see it, see it. It'll probably be about as what you expect. If you don't want to see it, don't see it because it'll probably be about what you expect.
Yeah, there you go.
Pretty standard in that regard. So yeah, and next movie is
another long ass movie.
Yeah, and it's
Yes.
it's honestly, looking back on this movie from this perspective, this is a weird movie for strange reasons, and we'll get to that when we talk about it.
Yes.
So
This will be interesting because I'm the only person who has not seen it.
Oh yeah, actually.
It's like Ratatouille all over again. Except I don't know if I'll like it as much as I liked Ratatouille.
no comment.
Find out.
Will it hit me in the feels?
No comment.
Okay. Remy!
On that note,
Bye.
that said, Gustav's book, I'm sure, is also on that ship.
Oh yeah.
Gustav!
Okay, we're done.
Bye.
Enough breakdowns.